Hi, I'm Robert Bauer, the grazing broker for Southwest Badger RC&D in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. And I'm here in Richland Center, Wisconsin on the Claudia and Jerry Barris farm to show you how to use a grazing stick. And the grazing stick is a tool to help producers in a managed grazing system. Using a measurement of the pasture height and density, it allows producers to figure out how many days of grazing they have in a specific paddock, how many animals to put in a paddock, or how large to make each paddock. So to use the stick, I may make several measurements across an entire paddock. I like to put it perpendicular to the ground, but right in this spot, I'm measuring about 10 inches of pasture height, which I like to do with my hand. And I'll take the stick and I'll look at what are the pre and post grazing heights that I want to achieve. So I want to start grazing about 10 to 12 inches, and then I want to stop grazing about 4 to 6 inches. So our available height is the current height minus the residual height. So our current height is 10 inches. We want to leave behind about 6 inches for cool season grass. Our available height is about 4 inches. Next step is to measure the density. So this grazing stick has a grid of dots. We want to slide the stick into a pasture that's more than 6 inches tall and then count the number of dots. So in this case I see 1 dot, and I'll take the stick back up and I'll look on side 2, table 1. And so for the number of dots that I counted and the pasture type, I can see how many pounds are in each acre inch of pasture. So for this smooth brome grass and legume pasture, with 1 dot showing, we have about 300 pounds per acre inch of forage. So for calculation C, our available pounds of dry matter per acre is 4 inches times 300 pounds per acre inch. So that's 1,200 pounds available dry matter per acre. So our next step is going to be to do the calculation that we need, so we can calculate days of grazing, size of the paddock, or the number of animals. In this case, I'm going to calculate the days of grazing for our herd. In the numerator, we calculate the available pounds of dry matter per acre, which we said was 1,200, times the number of acres in the paddock, this is a 5-acre paddock, times the harvest efficiency. To get the harvest efficiency, we have to go back to side 2 to table 2. The harvest efficiency is a function of how many paddocks we have in the system. In a continuous grazing system, we assume that most of the forage is sort of wasted and the animals are pretty selective. As we increase the number of paddocks, we reduce the selectivity of the cattle and we get a greater percent utilization. So in this system, this is a 21 paddock system, we could extrapolate and say we have about 65% efficiency. So now in our numerator again, we have 1,200 pounds dry matter available per acre times 5 acres times 65% harvest efficiency. Now we'll calculate the denominator, animal weight times the number of animals times the intake rate in percent of body weight. So to get the animal weight, we have to know our herd, and we have cow-calf pairs out here, times 50, number of animals, times the intake rate is a percent of body weight. We get that information from side 2, table 3. Each class and type of livestock have a different intake rate. So for lactating beef cows, we estimate 3 to 4% of body weight demand for dry matter per day. Going back to calculation D, we're going to say 1,400 times 50 animals times 4. So we calculate about 1.6 days of grazing in this paddock. So for a producer, we might come back out after a day, measure the paddock, look at its condition, and then maybe give them another 12 hours. And it's so important to use the right pre and post grazing heights because the cattle eat most efficiently between about 10 and 4 inches. When the pasture is taller, they take fewer bites and they spend a lot of time chewing the forage and ingesting it. Whereas when the pasture is the right height, they take about 60 to 80 bites per minute. And so then they're maximizing their intake. And forage intake is the best predictor of animal performance in terms of gain or pounds of calves weaned. So if you'd like to purchase a grazing stick to use in your operation, you can contact Grassworks, which is Wisconsin's statewide network of grazing networks, or Southwest Badger. And you can go to swbadger.org for more information.